Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. Bit of a sneak preview into FE Analyst today. So got mainly kind of customers on board. We want to show you the new tool first, so thanks for joining us. I'm joined this morning by John. So most of you will know who John is. You've either got John as your account manager or myself. So contact details will be available at the end with next steps around FE Analyst. But what we really want to do this morning is just cover a few things around the challenge. So why we've kind of looked at customer pain points and what we've come up with as a solution. I'm going to take the next 25-30 minutes just to briefly look at the challenges faced, a demo of the new tool, and then outline key next steps and questions for the tool. So just to kick off, we've got a few kind of super users. We've got users of all abilities on the call today. So what I want to do is just give a really brief overview of who we are and what we do as a little bit of a reminder. So you'll know that we are based in Basingstoke in Hampshire, but John is in South Yorkshire. I'm in West, but we're dotted all around the country. So really good at a time like COVID when we're all working remote. Extra additional support available, so just do bear that in mind if you need us. So we offer software, API and consulting solutions across 3 main sectors. We predominantly work in the education sector, so offering you guys with LMI software tools and consulting offers to help things like curriculum planning, student engagement and business development. We work with the wider sectors such as the employment sector, which is your recruitment agencies, your corporate and professional bodies, and then also the economic development space. So these are your local councils, local authorities, the newly combined authorities, and your local LEPs. So it's our mission at Emsi to help you guys make better decisions relating to the world of work. So what we really aim to do is to connect 3 critical audiences and to really use data to drive that economic prosperity within a region. We want to be able to connect people who are looking for good work, whether that be a school leaver or an adult learner, with the employers who are looking for good people. So we're providing a talent pipeline and really help you guys as educators bridge that gap between the person who's looking for good work and the employers who are looking for that talented workforce of people. And we want to do this through the common language of skills. So you'll see in the tools that we're constantly adapting that we've seen a real shift from kind of the traditional qualification focus, and we're looking at that kind of skills focus more and more within our job postings and profiles data. So a little bit of an overview then of why we've kind of addressed analysts and really taken stock in what we're currently offering to you guys as customers and how we've kind of identified some of the challenges. So we know that across the sector you all face the same challenges, and what we really want to do is understand how we as an LMI provider can clearly show you guys where the needs and opportunities are. So Analyst is a massive tool, and although it's full of lots of useful data, it's not often easy to find exactly what you need quickly. What we want to really be able to do is give you guys clarity on the jobs and skills that are required now, but also in the future, and really help you to be able to build these into that curriculum design, your student engagement activities, and then that business and employer engagement development as well. So we also obviously know that from year on year, curriculum plans don't need to have a complete overhaul. You offer what you offer because it's relevant within the community and the economy that you serve. And we're not looking to kind of start with a blank sheet of paper every year. So what we therefore want to do is need to help you highlight the opportunities better. And thinking about that skills focus again, it might be as subtle as changing course content. So with these in mind, and thinking about our kind of focus group and our innovation group, we've got some feedback from sector specialists. So we have a group of sector specialists, and these range from kind of senior management to marketing, business development and MIS within a college. What we've kind of picked from this group is some of the challenges that they're facing and how Analyst as such isn't really helping them solve those challenges. So Claire Hayward, who is Vice Principal at Heart of Worcestershire, really kind of outlined in a nutshell what we needed to do and how that would help. So we know the sector obviously as a whole doesn't have time or the money to invest in full-time research, so analysts. So as a college, what they want to be able to do as a senior management team is to really quickly serve up insightful data to staff such as curriculum managers and leaders to ensure that they've got a really easy workflow that allows them to experiment with new ideas and identify those new areas of local opportunity. So thinking about the need from Ofsted as well, we know that many kind of inspections will be delayed now for a good 12-18 months, but thinking back to that new inspection framework and some of the focus around intent and impact, what we really want to do is give colleges a workflow that will allow them to kind of check in with the local community, make sure that a college can remain relevant and have that informed intention to make small module changes or also the removal or development of new courses. So the result is FE Analyst. So you might have seen a couple of screenshots, kind of a couple of teaser blog posts that we've put out there, but what we really wanted to do is kind of boil down the big questions. So what's happening in your local economy? How does that directly link back to your college curriculum? And how does this translate into course areas? But what we want to do then is take it one step further from kind of the course vision angle. What are the in-demand skills which need to be reflected within your curriculum? How can that effectively translate into business development opportunities? And how can you really quickly get that economy overview? And not just the economy overview at that top level, but the occupation and industry detail as well. So brief overview of the new features and what's coming soon, and then I'll hand you over to John to give us a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the tool. So the first thing you'll notice is the new homepage, basically designed for easier navigation of the tool. And what we've broken it down to or out into is those 4 columns. So what's the big picture? Can we have an overview of the economy, industries and occupations that are growing and declining? How does that fit into course development? So how is it relevant to what we're offering? And with that, we've got 2 new reports in terms of course validation and course design. So really looking into that course vision report and that course area snapshot and building that out. We then look at jobs and skills. So as well as the traditional structural labour market data, we're kind of still keeping that skills and jobs posting analytics element. We've added in profiles, which is really exciting, and John will be able to give you an overview of that. And then we've improved the business development report to add in a couple of new features in that. This is the first release of the product, so we've got things that are not quite ready and will be added. So what we're also looking to do is add an automation risk report in there. So looking at that automation risk, which some of you might know is in Analyst, some of you might not. So how do you quickly get the automation risk of some of those growing or declining SOC groups? And then we've also broken out the industry characteristics and occupation characteristics. So able to kind of flick from SIC 1 to SIG4 very quickly to see a high level overview or a low level overview. So detailed versus top level. Sometimes that top level SIG stuff is helpful if we're looking for a bird's eye view. Sometimes we need the more detailed overview. So just a really good way to quickly switch between the two and make that connection a little bit easier. With COVID at the top of everyone's agenda, we are also adding a couple of new features into what we're calling a regional recovery report. So just a few screenshots on the slide, but what we're really looking to do is to look at kind of occupation summary for one of the food trade, for example, which might take a big hit. And more looking at daily job postings. So how is that declining or rising in the job centre plus claimant counts? We've got new bits of data, the unemployment survey that's been released today, for example, and we've got our daily job postings on our COVID dashboard. So we just want to bring that into an easy to understand report that will help us understand some of that kind of how that's mapping out within your region. So what are the occupations, for example, with rising demand or rising unemployment? So John, I will hand over to you. Just bear with me a second. And then you can give us a bit of an overview of the tool. So you should have control now. Perfect.
Good morning, everybody. Just to check, Carla, that you can see FE Analyst?
Yeah, I can see that.
Great. So good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining in today. Thanks for Carla for taking us through some of the background to FE Analyst. What I'm going to do now is just take you through some of the new features in this tool. There'll be a little bit of repetition from what Carla said, just as I kind of work my way through how the tool's structured and some of those new bits of data that we've put in there. As Carla said, this is brand new. We'll be live in a few days. There are kind of new things coming, so there'll be new features added constantly as we kind of get up and running. Particularly for the first few months, and as we get feedback from our users. So firstly, just a reminder of the column structure. On here on the left hand side, we've got that overview, and we've got the 4 columns, so we can work from overview across into the curriculum development, and then jump into lots more detail around things like jobs and profiles. So everything's in one easy to use navigation screen. In terms of economy overview, we've already seen a couple of really useful pieces of data that's going to be added in there, particularly the automation index. That's something that we're asked for a lot to make that a little bit more accessible. And then we've also got on this first section here on the overview, occupation overview and industry overview. So that, again, that's really been generated by user feedback, because often what we see is that people go from economy overview, taking that really broad helicopter view, and then want to dig into a bit more detail around particular occupations or particular industries. So now everything is there in one tidy place, and you're not having to bounce around analysts trying to find that information. So I'm not going to show everything today. I'm just, people on the webinar are largely currently analyst users. And so you're familiar with the tool. I just want to show a couple of the new features on there. So we've mentioned the overview. So largely as is, economy overview with the new piece of data, and then occupation and industry overview. In terms of course development, so now moving into the second column, the curriculum overview and course area snapshot are pretty much going to stay as is. We think that, based on the feedback, they work well. We are looking at some ways to improve how we upload data. So into the curriculum overview section, so how you upload your completion data. So we're currently working on ways that you could actually do that yourself, which would be really cool. But I'm not going to talk through those 2 reports today. Just a reminder of what's in there. That's where you can quickly upload your completion data, and then really swiftly see a nice overview of supply and demand. So really trying to get you to look at where there may be oversupply or undersupply. So we're going to skip over those 2 reports, and what we're going to do is spend a little bit of time now looking at these 2 brand new reports, which are course validation and course design. So clicking into course validation, as you'd expect by the title, what we're trying to do here is validate demand. So we'll have worked through the workflow from economy overview. We'll have looked at some headline information. We'll have then gone into curriculum area overview, and we'll have worked out maybe where there's some undersupply. And what we might want to do then is look at that in more detail. So we'd have an idea hitting this stage of the workflow what those areas are. So again, as with most of the analyst reports, you can search by course area. This is where we've aggregated different occupation codes into logical course areas, which are typically used by colleges. You could search by occupation, or you could even search by particular skill, which can be, a really interesting way to look at that when you're completing work around product development. So for the purpose of the demo, I'm just going to pick a course area. So let's go with engineering. I know most colleagues will run that. I've already just selected an area of Worcestershire, so just to have a look at for the demo. Remember that a couple of new features we added in last year was the ability to select drive time or radius from address, which again are really nice ways to select the area that you want to look at. So if we just run that report. So as I said, the names in the clues in the title, really, we're looking at information that's hopefully going to validate whether there is a demand for the particular area that we're looking at. So as a reminder, we're in Worcestershire and we're looking at engineering related occupations. So what that's done is it's pulled in lots of these SOC codes which are related to those occupations. Now, what you can quickly do is run down this list and just check things out if they're not appropriate. But what we've just tried to do is make it really quick for you to pull in those relevant occupation codes without having to do that manual work yourselves. So overview here, we've got target occupation for these target group of occupations for engineering. We can see that in Worcestershire in 2019, the number of jobs there, so 11,652, which was 10% above national average. And the projection tool, as always, we've got that projection data in there, which is forecasting out to 2028 with a 0.2% increase. Note here now we've added hourly wage as well as annual wage into that overview. Excuse me. So as Carla mentioned on the economy overview, one of the new features that we launching throughout the tool is this ability to toggle between SIC and SOC codes within the report. So this is a really useful feature in here. So looking at these top level overview, it's a SIC level 1, as we said, can be really interesting. It can give you that helicopter view of an area, but I often say to people it's interesting but it's not useful because you can't really make lots of decisions based on that. And what you'd have had to do before is go through filters and drill into more detail. Whereas what we can quickly do now, looking at where, so this is looking at the inverse staffing pattern, looking at the top 5 industries which employ those occupations, we can quickly go from SIC 1, looking at manufacturing, for example. We can quickly move through to SIC 2, SIC 3, and SIC 4. So we can quickly look at that journey right the way through from macro level. So we can see there we've got manufacturing. We can then work our way through to 2 and 3. So we can see as we start getting towards 3-digit, we've got maintenance and repair of motor vehicles, and that pulls through into 4-digit as well. So we can see from that really broad overview, we can then get into the detail of where the top activities we want to be focusing on. So that's a quick reminder, that's giving us a good overview of whether there is projected demand for the area that we're looking at. We then go into a job posting overview. So as well as looking at current demand, at projected demand, we're looking at current demand. So here we're looking at jobs posted in the last 12 months. And we've got the usual information that you'll be familiar with around posting intensity and median posting duration. So we're giving this as a flavour of whether there's current demand in the job market. And then what we're doing then is pulling in the top companies who are posting for those jobs. Again, you can click on the green More tab just to extend more. Top posted job titles and the top cities where those job postings are. So a really nice quick way to see in that report whether there's projected demand for the area that you're looking at and whether there's current demand. On the current demand, we can see the kinds of things that are interested to people, so those job titles, and then those top cities, so we can target marketing activity, we can target business development, commercial activity around those areas as well. So moving on, what we've made it really easy to do then, so we've got to the bottom of this report, We've proven that there's demand for these engineering related occupations in the Worcestershire area. What we want to do now is jump to the next section in the workflow. So what we can do there, we've got this nice link through there now. So we've got jump, and we can jump through into the course design report. So we've gone from validation, showing that there's demand. We're now into course design. And this is now about looking at the types of skills which are going to be useful to consider within that course. Now, when we're talking course, it could be that it's a short commercial training offer. It could be building things into a study program, into the main program. It could even be building things into tutorial. More and more people now seem to be looking at how they develop these softer skills into tutorial. So again, we just pull this data through from the last report, just so that you don't have to skip backwards and forwards. You've got that projection data there. As always, you can change the time frame on the projections. We've pulled through again this kind of SIC 1 to 4 drill down, just so that you don't have to keep scrolling backwards and forwards to the last report. You've just got that reminder there of the demand. But what we're doing this time, based on that job posting data, rather than looking at the employers who are recruiting and where they're recruiting, what we're doing this time is really succinctly just pulling in the top in-demand skills. So we can see the top hard skills in engineering, in those engineering related occupations, and we can see the top common skills. So remember, and for those of you who've done the training with us before, we always say, start quite broad and then work your way to much more granular detail. We're looking at quite a broad overview there of engineering. So what we'd suggest as the next stage is working through and refining that slightly, so that these hard skills and common skills become a bit sharper as we get down to a course level. But a really great place to start is looking at that course area overview, and looking at what's driving things within that particular industry. So we can see here top hard skills, engineering drawings, mechanical drawings, new product development, AutoCAD. So some useful insight there for those top hard skills driving engineering. And then common skills, doing lots of work with colleges currently around how to develop these common skills into things like curriculum development, and also into things like tutorial, as I mentioned before. And as always with these, where there's a more option, you can click and get into more a longer list there. So just to return back to the home screen and a quick summary of what we've done so far. So we've gone quickly talk through the overview, so getting that really broad overview of what's happening in the economy. We're then drilling down, matching that into your curriculum by mapping that your completion data into where there is overview, so looking at that labour market demand. And then, as we've just talked through now, we're then drilling into course validation and course design. So for many of the people on the call, and pushing this information out to curriculum areas, whereas before you had to dig into lots of areas around Analyst, you've now got lots of this information in one nice, clean, tidy space, and largely in this section here, in these two columns, quite a straightforward workflow. In 4 or 5 reports, you can get most of the information that you need. So moving on into the third column, we have jobs and profiles. What we've done in FE Analyst is bring in the job post and analytics report. So in Analyst, that was in a completely different section. So those of you on the call, most of you will be familiar with that. You can get into some really detailed information about job posting data in your area, but we're not going to cover that this morning. What I wanted to do is just show you profile data, which is a new report within the FE Analyst suite. So I'm just going to click on this and show you the type of data that's in here. So first off, we can select a region that we're interested in looking at. First of all, just to tell you a little bit about the data that's in here. So this is scraping things like publicly available social media sites like LinkedIn, and it's looking at that work-related information. So things like LinkedIn, online CV boards, those kind of data sets. We're then pulling that together to get an overview and a picture of particular individuals and the skills and jobs and so on that they say they've got right now. So bear in mind, this is looking at more professional based occupations. So people that use things like LinkedIn tend to be, in those more professional occupations, but nonetheless gives you a good insight into what's happening in that kind of social environment. So if we pick an area again, let's just pick Worcestershire again. And then on this filter, we can either select a school, so that by school, it could be a school or a college or a university, and look at the profile within there. We can also search by things like job title or occupation, or look at particular companies in your area and look at the social profiles for them. What I'm going to do this time is just to pick the college in that area. So we're in Worcestershire, so let's look at the Heart of Worcestershire College. So as I just start to type that, it should appear. And run that report. So what this shows us then, so we've just, for the purpose of the demo this morning, we've not got time to look at all of these different options, all these search options. What I've just done here is to give you a nice succinct example of this, is we're looking at the social profiles that we've scraped, which have tagged in Heart of Worcestershire College. So we can see here that there are just under 1,500. We can see the top cities where those people are based, so largely in Worcester, as you'd probably expect. But we've also got people based out in Kidderminster, Bromsgrove, and so on. We can then see the top companies where the social information says they're working. So interesting to see here that top of that list, 23 people are actually working at the college, but then we've got other organisations in there as well. We can see the top occupations that people say that they hold out of those profiles. So the highest number there with 65 profiles is sales accounts and business development managers. We can see the top job titles that are held in those profiles. So director of operations, chief exec being the top two. Top schools which filter into that. And then the top skills and qualifications. So these are things which people are actually mentioning themselves. Whereas we've looked at the other data around job posting data, and that's what employers are actually looking for. This is what individuals themselves are saying that they have skills and qualifications in. So there we can see a high proportion of the profiles have management as a skill, sales, Microsoft Office, and so on. So a really nice data set that we've added in there, and that helps to give that colour and contrast, putting another piece to the jigsaw. We've got the structural labour market data, we've got the job posting analytics, which scrapes information that employers are looking for, and then this starts to add another piece to that puzzle, which is information relating to those kind of social profiles. Particularly the social profiles we're talking there, as I say, around things like LinkedIn, that they're work-related social profiles, not things like Facebook and Instagram. So one last thing I wanted to just show this morning is the employer engagement section. Just one report in here for when we launch the product, and we will add more in this over the coming weeks. One of the things that will be added into this section, as Carla mentioned, is that response report, looking at how we can see what's happening within economies post-COVID. But so within this business development report, analyst users will be familiar with this. This is sat within the course vision section for a little while now. What we've done here, though, just to click into this report, is really starting to beef up the search functionality within this. Again, we can select by course area, we can select by specific job title or by a specific skill, and this report really useful for those commercial teams, business development teams, to be able to prepare for going out to a meeting with an employer, finding out that key information about a particular industry or sector, and doing that kind of that sweep of what's happening beforehand, so that you're going in there really well informed. The report also works really well for curriculum teams, helping to quickly validate whether there is demand for something. So we're showing here the current and proposed demand as well. So what I'm just going to do is again search by course area. So let's just search by engineering again in Worcester and run this report. And as I just said, what we see there then is for the area that we're looking at, so engineering, we look at those kind of job projections again. So jobs in 2019 and the projection out to 2028, number of annual openings. We then get into this, and this is one of my favorite data sets within the tool. We get into this detailed breakdown then of the occupations within here and where the actual job growth or declines are going to come. So as we said at the outset, often we look at things too broad, whereas when we get into this level of detail, we can see here that there's some decent growth around welding trades, IT business analysts, but then we've got these things starting to decline, like vehicle technicians, and mechanical engineers, albeit the numbers there the decline are quite small, but we're getting some really meaningful, actionable data at that level. So we go from that headline demand, looking at the projections, we can then see the job posting overview. Again, what we've built in on this left-hand side is lots of filtering options. So we can filter by whether we want employers or self-employed. We can change the job posting time frame. We can add in specific skills into this filter. So we're currently looking at engineering, but we could add a particular skill in there as a filter, which I'll come back and do in a second. We can filter whether we want permanent jobs or apprenticeships, and so on. So job posting overview, number of jobs posted. You'll all be familiar with that kind of data. We've then got the top companies posting. So again, great tool for business development, shows us the top companies who are posting in this particular area. And you know, a good thing to do is to work out how many of those you're actually working with, and could there be opportunities to work with other employers. We've got top posted job titles, and then again we've got that kind of detailed information about hard skills and the common skills. So a really nice kind of catch-all report, which gives you a flavour of everything. Really useful for business development, and you know, even going to curriculum planning meetings. This can be the kind of one-side, you know, the one report that you pull out if you need information in a rush. The other thing that's in here, so as well as having the common skills now, we've also pulled in this graph with the profiles. So just looking at this example, with it, looking at communication, we've got the dark blue bar, which is the skills mentioned and the frequency in the job posting. We've also then got the frequency in which this skill is mentioned in those workforce profiles. So that last section that we just looked at. So a really nice way again to add colour and contrast and start to fill in some of those missing pieces. So we can see here that management's mentioned a lot in job postings as a common skill. Good demand there for management, but in social postings there is a high proportion of people saying that they have that particular skill. So again, another nice data set to put in there, and fills out some of that information that you're looking for within the labour market. So as I just mentioned, I just want to finish off by showing one of these filters here, and showing how we could filter this by skill. So we're looking at engineering related occupations. One of the things we're seeing often now within the data is the fact that we see more IT related things come through in engineering. We can see there that you know, one of the top occupations within there is kind of IT and business analyst. And often we'll start to get things through in curriculum planning sessions around, okay, well, how is this particular skill developing in this industry? So we're looking at engineering. We could then just select something like Java programming language, and then we could apply that filter. So now we're looking at that engineering related activity again. So we've still got those kind of same target occupations in there, but what we've done is put a really micro level of filter on to show just those job postings for engineering which mention Java programming language, and then what we can do then is within the rest of that report, just look at those particular data sets which relate to that. So we can see the top companies who are hiring, the top job titles, the top skills. So we can see, as well as Java, that's the one that we selected, the other programming languages which are important as well. So those kind of thinking about that as a skills cluster, as well as Java, then people in that engineering space are also looking for Python, agile software development, C# and so on. So yeah, a nice way to be able to filter that as well. Again, great tool for insight when you're going out to employers, or to support with curriculum planning. So that's all I was going to cover through this morning. Just a quick recap of some of the benefits there that I'm going to hand back over to Carla. So as well as having some really great data in there, one of the things that we spent a lot of time working on here is making sure that you've got the most relevant bits of analyst. So I think that for most colleges, probably 95% of the data that you need to support curriculum planning for those kind of heads of department, curriculum directors is going to be within this tool. And what that's allowing you to do is then push the ownership out to get more people using the data, share that responsibility, share the ownership of using the data, and it's not overwhelming. We can offer training which makes this kind of nice and sharp, and some resources to help you to work through that workflow and get the data that you need most. So thank you for listening. I'm just going to hand back over to Carla.
Thanks, John. And if you do have any questions, just pop them in the questions bar on the control panel now. We'll have some time to answer those at the end. So hopefully that was helpful. A really good overview of some of the new bits and pieces that we've added in there, but also hopefully a clearer and tidier workflow for colleagues, just to really help be able to kind of widen usage and probably take some of the load off a lot of you guys who are on the call. So next steps then for customers. So it will be switched on and live from tomorrow. So what we want you to do is to get in touch with us. So John or I, you will know who your account manager is. And we can switch that on for you. We've got a number of upcoming support webinars over the next few weeks. So then the first one will be on Tuesday, the 26th of May, and we're just going to go step by step through each of the columns in a little bit more detail. Once we do give you access, it's really simple to just log into your analyst account. You'll see the usual homepage with everything on. All you need to do is just go to the drop-down bar where your name is and click on the further education option rather than the full analyst option. So number of upcoming support webinars, but get in touch with us if you would like it switched on. So still haven't got any questions. Our contact details, just in case you don't have those to hand, pop those down and drop us an email. But we're looking forward to hearing from you and yeah, seeing you use the new tool. It is in its infancy, it's at the first kind of release, so any feedback welcome. We've done this from feedback from the sector, so we are always looking at new ways to make the tool more easier for you guys to use. So thanks very much for joining. John, anything else to add?
Nothing for me, thanks, Carl. Look forward to people and getting switched on.
Thanks very much. Have a lovely day, everyone, and we will speak to you soon.